I can't tell the difference between life and dreams.
Thank you.
Lost the contact lens.
Hope you find it.
Thanks.
Congratulations on Moon Knight. Like what an incredible project to be a part of. I read that you said that when people see this, they're not going to recognize that it's you directing this. And so I wanted to know why. Like, what did you do on Moon Knight that was different from your other work that stands apart from all the other things you've done?
Ironically, I'm going to tell you something that feels the opposite, but it's not. I
Okay.
actually feel like Moon Knight is an extension of my small independent films, because at the core of it, if you strip down all the action and everything, it's a story, it's an intimate story about someone learning how to live with himself. And I cannot make a film or a show about something that I can't identify with. And I see myself like talking to you, being that nice guy. That's my mask, that's my persona. And there's something else inside of me. And all my journey through life, trying to make those people, the two sides of me being one, is the journey that every one of us go through. And that's why I identify with the Moon Knight. But when I said people are not going to recognize me because they're not going to be able to believe that I actually direct action in this way and direct horror and direct comedy, which I'm not known for at all. And but at the same time, I was given the chance to bring my movies. This is why it's darker. This is why it tastes differently. And this is why people say if you cut the Marvel logo, people are going to feel like this is a different show.
And you're absolutely right. And you killed it. And you were like the perfect person for the job, because it is that, right? It's about Stephen and Mark reconciling with their past, present, and future. And us doing that too, like knowing we're not our past, but having to constantly like live with it and remind ourselves of it. It's incredible. I read that you made a 200-page pitch for this. What all goes into that? What was in there? Did a lot of it make it into the show? Tell me about this 200-page Moon Knight pitch.
Well, I moved here 3 years ago, me and my wife, starting from scratch. We're big in Egypt, but we always had this dream that we can share our stories on a bigger scale. So we had a couple of projects, but we never connected to anything except maybe the Moon Knight is the first pitch I've ever done in my life.
Wow.
The two of us. So we, for 2 weeks after reading the script, we put together this pitch. And by the way, it's all pictures. So you go through it just like that. It's not like an essay that you have to spend days reading it, but it covered everything. The locations, the editing, the tone, the action, how are we going to shoot it? The music that you liked wasn't the pitch 2 years ago. And the score, the locations in Egypt, how are we gonna develop the characters? And once we were done, we told ourselves, I told Sarah, if we didn't get this job, something is wrong with the world. Not because we covered everything. It's not about covering everything. It's about covering everything in a unique and a unique voice. When you know that you're the best guy to tell that story, you're gonna get the job.
Wow.
And by the way, that pitch became the Bible when we hired Aaron and Justin. That's what I handed them. And that's why their episodes feel like mine. They're 2 episodes. And today, that is the show.
Wow. Wow.
And I have to thank Marvel for hiring me for that pitch and then letting me actualize that pitch.
Right, because it's one thing to pitch it and then have people come in and scrap things away, but for that to be the Bible and the source, where do you keep it? I want to meet Sarah. I feel like she's a perfect example of behind every great man.
I want to tell you,
an unbelievable woman.
I always feel guilty being interviewed without her.
I know. Next time I interview you, we'll make sure Sarah's there.
She's directing her first film. I'm pushing her as much as I can. She deserves it.
That's incredible. Where do you guys keep this pitch? And what was the first thing you did to celebrate when you got Moon Knight?
Smart and I wanted to tell that story. I was on the beach with her and the kids, and we got that call. It was a month after the final pitch with Kevin Feige. And my heart was pounding. I'm getting up. Marvel is calling me. Grant is calling me. And he told me, you got it. We started dancing, my kids, and on the beach. I'm not that kind of a crazy guy. So we were dancing and people didn't know what we were doing. And we were embracing each other. But just imagining anyone in the US here getting a job like this would dance. But just imagining someone from a small town in Egypt learning his English from American movies.
Wow.
This is huge. And feeling the burden of, or the weight and the responsibility and the honor of being the first Egyptian to tell our stories to the world. I'm proud, honored, and lucky.
And guess what? It's only the beginning, which is probably the best part of all this. Super excited. I love that visual of you guys dancing. You directed the first episode, and the first episode really sets the tone for the entire series. So what elements were really important for you to be in that first episode because it was setting the tone?
The first time I talked with Oscar Isaac, he saw my two movies, Clash and Amira, and he was reluctant because he just came out from big movies, Dune and Star Wars and X-Men, and he just wanted to make intimate films. And he told me, Muhammad, what the hell are you doing here? And I told him, Oscar, I don't think making small movies is just for making intimate stories is just for small movies. You can do intimate stories in big budget movies. And that's when we both started. I pitched him how I see the show, and we started working on making this a character study. So it was very important for me to know who Steven is, to know him as a real person. My favorite scene, and it's a scene that me and Sarah wrote and we fought for it, is the diner scene. That's the moment that you love Steven. That's the moment that you realize, okay, DID, every time I hear about someone who has DID, I think, okay, he has those blackouts or whatever, and then he goes back to life. But no, Steven can't have a date, can't have a normal life. Everything is hard in his life. That stake moment is the moment that really, it's my favorite scene in episode 1.
It is so good, and it's because it's so human. And you're right, like we can have these intimate, incredible stories told like through these big epic scope ways, and you're such a master at that, which is why, you know, you were on this project. That is one of my favorite scenes. Another one of my favorite scenes is the truck backwards scene. What was it like shooting that for Oscar and Steven? And I have a random question for you. Have you seen Licorice Pizza?
Not yet.
Okay, there's a scene where Alana Hayam is driving a truck backward. And I was wondering if you had seen that.
No.
But tell me about shooting that.
Well, shooting that was an interesting thing because I'm usually like, any scene is shot like in a day or half a day or like hours. And that scene like took like a week, more than a week, between shooting on location in Slovenia and then shooting on stage. It was such an interesting scene. It was one of the first times that I learned to use previs. I'm one of the directors who need the location to understand how I'm going to shoot it. In 3 minutes after seeing the location and the actors doing it once, I know how to shoot it. But you can't do that with big action sequences. So I had to discover that in the previs. And that scene was created, and I knew that it's going to be different. Well, in a show, you're not competing with big budget, the biggest action sequences. So we created our own unique thing, the idea of a blink. The idea that this action sequence is not the Fast and the Furious. It has to have a different tone. And have you heard the song on the?
I was just going to say, Sarah picked the best song over it.
Honestly, except I give everyone their credit. That's my editor. Sarah picked all the other songs in the show, every single one of them except that one. That was my great Cedric, the great editor. A perfect song, and it just like tells you the tone. Don't take us seriously, and don't take the narrator seriously. So I love that scene so much, and it's one of my favorite scenes because again, it's a small action sequence, but it's not. It's unique, and the blinks. I don't think anyone saw something like that. The idea of, by the way, when I see a movie and I'm not that attached to the characters, if it's an action movie, sometimes I go to the bathroom and come back in the middle of the action sequences because who cares? But in what we really, the fresh thing, every time I told my team, the fresh thing about our action sequences were the blackouts. You never saw that. You're on your seat because you don't know if this action sequencer is going to continue or I'm going to find myself in a different place, did something weird. That's partially why I love Steven, because seeing the whole show through Steven and Mark, getting the feeling of someone who has DID is something very important.